So just quickly introducing myself, I'm an Apache CouchDB developer. I'm also a member of the PMC, which is managing the project. I'm a Python Software Foundation member. In Python world, I'm known for the JUnit server, which is WSGI server used by most, Facebook, Google, etc. For a living, I'm selling open source software and consultings in database. I'm a web craftsman. I'm doing only on fashion for customer and not I'm not doing any maintenance or stuff like it. So just to introduce what gave me the idea of the project, the big picture. So the big picture, everything started with, I don't know if you know these books, Snow Crash from Neil Stephenson. And in these books, I'm particularly interested by one part of the books where people exchange between themselves hypercard. And an hypercard is a card that is replicating data on your computer, and with the data are coming the application. So you have the librarian to look at your data. You have the indexer that allows you to look on the metadata that someone organized for you, etc., etc. So I'm working on, I've read these books 20 years ago, I think, something like it. And since then, I've worked on different projects, always based on these books somehow. And so Refuge will basically allow that, a way to synchronize your data, and at the same time, rather than having these HTML5 apps that everyone have, import the application you need. So if you need the CouchDB, you will be able to import your CouchDB on your desk, on your desktop or on your cluster, and launch it as a container. Today we can do that with technology and launch it and start to bootstrap the data you want, etc., etc. So this is the big picture on the project. So what's Refuge? Refuge is a way to store data, synchronize, and share your data. This is totally decentralized. So rather, 1 year ago, we have this idea of services that are launching and billing you to offer you a convenient service, etc. But I have the tendency, especially today with Prism program from US, etc., that people don't want really work on the cloud. What they really want is having a simple way to share the data, deploy the application to render, use the data, etc. And we can build service on top of that. But people want a decentralized way to do that. I have a lot of customers that are working around the world, and their main concern is how can my office in San Francisco have the same data in real time that my office in Paris have, or in Lausanne, or whatever. Refuge is working over and on the web. It would be quite easy actually to change that to listen on TCP or UDP. But the big advantage of the web is that it offers you standardized standard that you can use, and so the web standards have everything to go over firewalls or to share the data easily, etc. And remember, I'm a CouchDB developer, which is a database with an HTTP API. Refuge is built in Erlang with some parts in Go language too. Refuge is part of Campio. Campio is the service that we launch based on Refuge. So once Refuge is done, I can launch Campio. So why? I already said the big picture. Why I started to build Refuge rather than using a solution that already existed. So I think I played too much with CouchDB. CouchDB gives you this feeling that you can share your data really easily with a master-master replication. You don't have to take care about your schema because you can just put new documents and change the view you have of your data on your data, and then map it and reduce it if you want. CouchDB is mostly at least for now, until the merge with Big Couch, which will happen soon, peer-to-peer database where you can have nodes that are sharing your data, which is basically what I'm doing for some customers. So I have a customer that have 3,000 iPads, for example, in a room that start to synchronize with CouchDB on the same times data. So this is master-master replication. And for Refuge, I started by hacking around CouchDB, changing CouchDB to be based on Rebar, then adding Bonjour protocol to allow you, when you go in a room, to launch your CouchDB nodes and to be known to other nodes and start to replicate your data, etc. So everything started by that. And CouchDB also have the parts that some may want. You can transform, which is the main goals at the beginning of the Couch app. You can transform the data. You can transform the view of you have in, why not in HTML, why not in RTF, why not in XML, or whatever you want. And Couch apps is also used to build HTML5 application and replicate between your data between your applications. And CouchDB goes over the web because this is an HTTP API, and so it can be used by any language. And CouchDB is behind NPM, which is the Node.js repository. Everything is based on CouchDB. Node.jitsu, which is the big Node cloud services. Everything is based on CouchDB. Messages are exchanged in CouchDB. Data is exchanged in CouchDB. DNS pass over CouchDB. So even beyond Node.js services, we have Erlang services, finally. So we have CouchDB that was starting to work well. Arkush is working well. It is used by my customer. It's working on iPhone. It's working on Android. I've patched Erlang for that. But this is the document-oriented database. This is mostly an indexer where you store blob insights. At the end, what we really want is a simple way to store any blobs. Then index or run on them. And once you index your data, once you have your blobs on the server, you may want to share them with other, or with Office, or with between machine, or with people. I also wanted a simple solution that can work on offline device. By offline device, I'm speaking about mobiles. I'm also speaking about embedded device. So I can plug my Raspberry Pi or my Qbox or any ARM device and take it in my pocket, come in the desert, launch it, start to share data between people, come back in Europe and start to share maybe with newspaper, etc. So it should have to work on offline device and also near you. So I wanted also a simple way to share your data between Singapore, New York, San Francisco, France, Berlin, any part in the world in quasi real time. So the core service of CouchDB is named Coffer. Coffer because this is a versatile storage services. I miss. Oops. Okay. Yeah. So while some are starting to build their own blob server, so they are building A-Stack stuff, or they are building S3 compatible storage service, etc. I think the more pragmatic approach is to reuse what is existing and to provide common API on top of that. Because at the end, we have the data, but what really counts between your application and your data is to have protocols, to have a good protocols to share your data, to add your data, delete your data, get a list of your data, and replicate your data. So Coffer is a versatile storage services. Multi-backend, so you can store on a file system. You can also distribute your files around machines, sharding basically. You can store it on S3, you can store it in memory or whatever. I said this is an HTTP API, so this is a simple REST API with only 4 methods. You have get to get your blobs, you have put to put your blobs, you can delete your blobs. You can never update the blobs because each blobs are put in the web server with a content ID, which is unique, or supposed to be unique. It depends on the hash you take. And so you don't have to take care about updates. You put one blobs. If you want to make an update, you create a new blobs with a new hash that you put to your server. And you can also synchronize in real times. I already said that all blobs are uniquely identified. It should work. It actually works on Raspberry Pi and QBox and other ARM systems. It also works on Android. But it should work on any mobile or embedded device. At least I will try to make it happen. Coffer is very low level, so it can work really easily. It should handle partial upload because I never know a mobile device that is able to be online every time, or for a long time, I mean. So it should be able to resume your upload just like you can do in HTTP. It's fully RESTful. So on the alongside Coffer, the core of Coffer is a Gen server that keeps all the storage backend configuration. For now, you can only add backends statically, but there should be an API to add them dynamically. Then you have a behavior that allows you to define in alongs your storage. So actually, you have a behavior for file system storage and memory storage in ETS, and you can build your own behavior on top of that. This behavior reproduces the HTTP API. This is resource oriented. So you have a method to upload by chunk your blobs. You have a method to delete your blobs. You have a method to get your blobs and to send each chunk as a message in alongs, etc. And conflicts. And by conflicts, I mean make sure that you can't upload two people can't upload the same blob at the same times, are handled by the backends. Each backend process is notifying the clients when the blob is updated or when the blob is deleted. So you can even subscribe to any blobs events and wait for them. It will be used later by the application. So we have, so this schema shows the thing. So you have the Gen server that is keeping the configuration on which you register the backends, and you have clients connecting to the server, getting the process ID of the storage backend, and start to discuss directly with backends. Everything is decentralized, even in the process, so the server is not a point of contention, which is frictionless. But if you need, like if you want to store in a S-stack and you need to keep a state to make sure that you to put your blobs in your queue before updating your file system, your file that contains the blobs, you can block it. You block a client in the Gen server by call. But this is not used for the file system storage. It just say to the client that it start to accept, give up the process ID to start to upload, to send the chunk as a message, and the file system backend store it, each chunk on the file systems. Synchronization algorithm is very simple. Since we are today, the complexity in when you want to replicate in master-master between data is that each database have to take care about the ID you gave to your document or to your in your table, etc. So each you have no this ID can be reused over your application, so you have no constraint on your ID. So, which is very difficult, and which makes, for example, in CouchDB we have to detect conflicts and to detect each revision of your document before you upload. But here we have a simple content hash ID, which is unique. So to handle conflicts is really easy, and the replication algorithm is really simple. When you upload a document on your remote node, this is here, this is not here. If it's here, you don't have to upload it. If it's not here, you upload it, which is pretty simple. So the synchronous algorithm start to create a change queue on the source. So you can make sure to have the new updates while you are replicating. This is on the Bootstrap. And you start to enumerate, to list all the blobs that you have on the source, compare with the list of the blobs that you have on the target, and start to upload on the target. Then once it's done, you start to watch on the change queue. So sometimes the blob is already here, and you just have to ignore. In the other case, you acknowledge that you want the blobs, and the source will send to you. So blobs delivery is guaranteed. While some systems try to have a continuous replication, which is the case of CouchDB, and you have a continuous feeds with all the blobs coming serialized. Here you are the replication target. When you create a replication, task, you start by saying how many documents you want at the same times, and once the number is came onto this, you acknowledge for a new bulk update, etc., etc. So we are making sure that everything is came on the target, and if it's not, the source will keep them in the queue, and we also make sure that we are able to handle lags or whatever. When you have a big lags, you can reduce the number of documents you want, blobs you want, etc. Change queue in Erlangs are kept in memory and persisted from time to time on the disk. This is quite the same model that you have with Redis. You have a process by queue and a process by watcher. So when a watcher connects to the replication queue, it opens a process which is kept and supervised. And this is basically pub sub over WebSockets. You can also have event source on log4lig, and I plan to transform everything in just using SockJS protocol, which has been designed by RabbitMQ. Okay. Beyond all of that, there are three main tools that are used. There is Acne, which is an HTTP client I built, which is a simple HTTP client, RESTful-oriented. So the difference, there are today two main HTTP clients in Erlang. You have iBrowse and you have LHTTPC. Both are using process to transfer your data, and both are relying on HTTP from HTTP parser from Erlang standard library, where Acne has its own parser, which is full binary, and we don't try to send message to open a process and share message between the clients to open a process, which is to get the data and put them on your client. We just stream the data and pass it directly to the client. So no process, no lag, etc. Which is quite faster. You can expect 10% faster than LHTTPC, for example. And this is more reliable, or at least should be more reliable than iBrowse in HTTP parsing. So here is a simple example of Acne in action, which is a ping to a Coffer instance to make sure it's live. It's just sending an add method to the URL, and if it's okay, send a pong to reply with a pong or bang, just like the ping in the Erlang NetAdmin module. So today Acne is speaking HTTP 1.1, and next week was working for a customer this week, so I wasn't able to release it, but Acne will spoke also Speedy and HTTP 2.0 when we will release. But next week it will speak Speedy, so you will have full binary HTTP protocol, which can work with Cowboy or with any server able to speak Speedy. Other tools that are behind Coffer are gpros to do ship pub/sub support on the process. It will be changed soon by its own pub/sub process. And the other tool that is used in Coffer is actually a modified Cowboy to handle the HTTP protocol. Cowboy may or may not disappear. At least it will be, or it will always be a modified version, because remember the big picture. We want to be able to speak with application and to speak with different protocols. So we can. The thing I imagine the next server we will have in Coffer and in Refuge in general will work like Mongrel, when you can subscribe resource and start to exchange message. Doesn't work anymore. So how to use the blobs? Because we have no metadata, in fact. We have just binary coming on the server. We have no history, no revision. We have just blobs. So what we can do is exactly like Git is doing today. We can imagine to have 3 kinds of blobs if you want to create a backup of a different folder or disk. We got 3 kinds of blobs. One blob describing the file, one blob describing the directory, and the blobs, which is the file by itself. So for example, if we imagine we are using JSON, you don't see anything. Okay. Yeah. So this is an example of okay. Sorry. So we have here a description of file in a JSON, which we have the blob ID, which is the content hash of the file that the client calculates. And if we want to make revision, just like in Git, we can add the latest, the previous content hash that the file had before the update. A folder is described as another JSON, which is a list of file name with their blob ID, the tip, which is a blob when it's a file, or if it's a folder, this is also a tree. So you link to the other JSON. Which is basically what does Git today, except that Git doesn't do that with JSON. This is just plain text file. And of course, this is not enough. If you want to make a backup, you want to make sure to get the latest update, or maybe to get the previous update in the time, etc. So just like in Git, you can keep a reference, build a reference that links to the latest tree reference that you save on Coffer, and keep it somewhere. It may be in the database, it may be on the file system. Just like Git branch or tags, basically. On top of that, if you want to share your blobs with your friends or your customer, we can imagine to build a gallery of photos, and you want to share your photo with your friends. Rather than having a login system, you can just share JSON with a key, a signed key, that has a link to the real blobs, to the real, for example, the blob can be a JSON describing a gallery, and then when your Coffer instance gets the real blobs, it starts to replicate the data on your disk. Or if it's a load, you can show them on the remote. But this is basically just another blobs. Of course, it can work for simple application. It can work between friends, where you keep some blobs on your disk that reference to the other blobs. But sometimes you may want to do more, and you may want to index your content, really index, and which is basically what you do today. The current platform, even if we call this new platform, which is quite old, the current platform is, okay, I put my data in a MySQL database or in a React server, or etc., and then start to listen on my server or to replicate my server, or have a way to extract the data from the SQL server and index them in a search engine like Elasticsearch, etc., using a River. But we are doing it the wrong way. What we want really is to keep the raw data somewhere and listen and store your raw data and then start to index your raw data or review on your raw data. So in Coffer world, this is basically we are replicating the data. We are reusing the replicator, the change queue, and we are replicating the data to your indexer, which can be MySQL, which can be CouchDB, which can be React, which can be anything, Cassandra, whatever. In the indexer, we serve at first a blob reference, not the blob, but the size, a timestamp to eventually keep the order, even if the order is not guaranteed if you are listening on multiple machine. And if the indexer is OK to receive the blobs, it starts to receive the blobs. Maybe transform it using a function and store it in the index. So here is a quick schema. Don't show anything. Okay. I don't know why it's in advance from my computer. Okay. So you have the indexer on top of different backend. It can be an SQL backend, a document-oriented backend, or a search engine. And it's starting to replicate the data from the blob server to your index backend. It mostly works like a blob server, except that, like in CouchDB, you can eventually transform your data. You can map your data and transform it before storing it into indexer. And this is multi-language. At the beginning, there will be a simple language based on LFA. On Lisp to transform your data and store them on the disk. So it will be full Erlang, and you won't have to care about having some C on your computer, which makes the things more easy when you want to embed it in Android or whatever. Yes. So this is showing what I said. On top of that, so you have the blob server, you have the index server, which are not supposed to be public. You are not supposed to share your blob server with any people. You can, but this is supposed. No, it was good. Yeah. This is supposed to be behind a refuge node. A refuge node is basically a front end to blob server and index server. It manages the blob claims, so you can claim a blob if someone gave you an ID and get another blob that will redirect to a blob. You can claim an access to get a full list, or you can just reuse the links I sent to you to get the blobs you wanted on the application. This is a gateway to other nodes too. So if you have for example, if you have a node in Tor that you want to proxy to the publics, you can put it behind the refuge nodes, and the refuge nodes will basically forward the traffic over Tor. because we are living in the modern world, you can also use WebRTC to directly share your Kafka instance or your data to your browser. So a browser can go on a refuge instance, say, "Hey, I'm listening for blobs," and another browser connect to the refuge node, say, "I'm ready to send you blobs," and then right after you are sending blobs directly from browser to browser, and eventually replicate from your browser to another Kafka instance, which is yours. So you don't have to pass by a middle tier, and you can really secure your transfer. So this is just a quick schema showing that. So we have the refuge node, which is on top, and the blob server and index server behind. Except, so the simple way it works with a refuge node is sending the URL to your friends, or to your office, or to your group. But another way is to put an hub on top, and this hub can be yours, or this is an hub on which you can log in. And the hub is a true decentralized. Refuge nodes are registering to the hub, and the hub can accept only some nodes signed or not. You can query the node to know which data you have or how to log into the hub using WebFinger or an OSMITA standards. So we can imagine I don't know if you know that, if you know this protocol, but an hosted protocol. We can remote storage protocol, which are JavaScript things. We can imagine to build an API on top of that that is able to speak with an hosted application. So you basically a hub. You have the refuge node registering to a hub or different hubs, and another refuge node that is searching on a hub. But you can also have a client registering to the hub and looking for data. And like it will be organized, this is mostly like Google+. So you have data circle or topic circle on which you can register and share. So concretely, if you have a lab and you want to share some data with people, you can imagine to have a group of topics on which you can you put some storage, and you can start to share with this topic with other people. So once connected to a node, a refuge node doesn't care about once he has found a refuge node on the hub. It won't connect. It won't connect via the hub to the node. It will take the IP or the address and directly connect to the refuge nodes. We are over on HTTP. We are using WebSocket for that. We could also use TCP or maybe better MTCP, MUTCP, which is a protocol over TCP over UDP, or basically an improved TCP, which is used in BitTorrent. But using WebSocket makes the things simpler because we are already all the control handled by the WebSocket protocols. And this is full binary, and firewall doesn't stop WebSockets today when they can stop UDP or they can stop non-HTTP packet. Yes. Okay. And I'm done. If you have any question. Oh. Okay. Thank you.